What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. With the Riftbound League of Legends TCG release weekend just passing, I hope you guys were able to get your hands on all those cards you were hoping to. And today's video is going to be for a couple different types of players, both new players and players who might have had their eye on Riftbound for a little bit. Maybe you want to dip your feet in, ease into the game, see what deck you might like to play before you invest a lot of money into buying a deck. So in today's video, what we're doing is we're building the best possible deck with 2 Viktor starter decks. So all you need to do to be able to follow along with this video is buy 2 of these starter decks. We're building the best possible deck with just 2 of them. I will also talk about ways you can upgrade the deck. And luckily, Viktor is sort of an easy one to upgrade. Doesn't require a lot of high rarity cards to actually build a competitive constructed version, which is very, very nice. So you'll be able to start with just 2 copies of this, eventually upgrade into a fully constructed build if you decide you like Viktor. That's what we're doing in today's video. Hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's get right on into it. Alright, so we've cracked open our 2 Viktor starter decks, and like I mentioned before, this is going to be the best deck you can build with just 2 Viktor starter decks from your LGS or wherever you can get your hands on them. I will go over cards that you can pick up to upgrade this deck, whether you're going to be trading for them, picking them up from packs at locals, stuff like that. This deck is actually quite easy to upgrade. You don't need a lot of high rarity cards, which is really, really nice. But even then, the deck you're getting with just the 2 starter decks is good enough to get you started. So let's move these off to the side and go over the legend real quick. This legend, very simple but very strong, especially in the limited starter deck format. If you guys are still playing that after the first week, if your LGS is still hosting them, I like this guy quite a bit. I actually played him for all of my starter deck tournaments because of the turn 1 guarantee to make a unit. It's really, really nice. I played against enough people that had to pass on turn 1 that made me really happy that I picked Viktor. I actually won both of my starter deck release tournaments, which is really cool. So Viktor, really strong. Let's go over the main deck for the 2 starter decks mashed together. They do give you a non-negotiable, incredible battlefield you will play all the time, which is Treferian Warcamp. It's so good in Viktor because this gives every unit you put here +1. It does it for your opponent as well. However, because you're a token spam deck, the more units you can put here, the more +1s you're going to get, which eventually outmaths your opponent. When they can only put 1 to 2 units here, you put 4 to 5 units here, you're going to win those trades almost all the time. So really, really good in Viktor. And then we have Altar to Unity. Not a bad one in Viktor by any means, but it's definitely negotiable. You could find better ones. One that a lot of people really like is Candlelit Sanctum. Just helps the consistency of any deck you're playing. But if you want more tokens, you by all means can go for a battlefield like this. It is definitely good. The other one, though, that I don't love as much is the Grand Plaza. So Grand Plaza, the thing about this card is the threat of it is actually better than the card itself. Like, your opponent has to respect it when you put it out, but I've actually never seen this resolve. I take that back. I've seen it resolve once in my hundreds of games of Riftbound. I don't think this card is that good. 110% if you get Obelisk of Power from a pack or a friend, definitely include that over Grand Plaza. Obelisk of Power is so good in Viktor because in a game that you know you're going first, you get 3 energy. So you ideally will play a 2-drop and you'll get the extra token from Viktor's ability on turn 1 going first. The tempo generated from that is absolutely insane. So that's 100% what you want to swap this out for if you get the opportunity. Going into our runes, we are going to be playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blues and the rest yellows. We're leaning into yellow ever so slightly. I mean, if you played 6-6, it'd probably be fine. Just the way that I built this deck, I wanted slightly more yellows because there's some pretty heavy yellow costs in the deck. So we're going with that rune split. And then for our chosen champion, we are playing the one that comes in the starter deck. It is Viktor Innovator. And honestly, I was pretty impressed by this guy throughout my time playing in the starter deck tournaments. The reason is, this guy compared to yellow Viktor Leader, you have a little bit more control over when you actually get to make your tokens as opposed to Viktor Leader, where your opponent has to kill your non-token units in order to generate more tokens. So you have a bit more control with this guy, which in card games is generally good. I think the biggest problem with this card is the 3 might. He dies to 1 falling star proc, which is very problematic, especially in a constructed format where you might have a lot of Kaisa or other red decks roaming around. If you had 1 more might, I think this card would be really, really nice, but quick upgrade. And actually, to be honest, the only epic you really need to upgrade this deck is 1 copy of Viktor Leader. If you do get your hands on it, just swap this out for the Viktor Leader and you'll be all set. But still, a solid card that you'll play sometimes in your games with this deck. Now for our unit lineup, we are playing 2 copies of Soaring Scout, fantastic card, even in a constructed Victor list. We're also playing 2 copies of Ravenbloom Student. If you can get your hands on Watchful Sentry, definitely add it to this deck. You want to play at least 9 2-drops in my opinion, especially in Victor, because it's an aggressive deck, but also because you get a lot of value when both the Soaring Scout and the Watchful Sentry die. But also, Ravenbloom Student, incredible card. We're playing a lot of spells in this deck. You will play a lot of spells in a typical constructed Victor deck, so really, really good stuff there. And then we are playing 3 copies of Noxian Drummer and 3 copies of Eager Apprentice. Noxian Drummer, solid, helps you make more tokens, which can be very, very clutch, especially with some spells we play later that can buff multiple units. Noxian Drummer can make those cards live by herself, which is nice. Eager Apprentice, not a card you would typically play in the constructed Victor build. However, it can be clutch because in this style of the deck, we can play a little bit more like hold based, where we want to maintain control of battlefields like War Camp, like the Altar to Unity. And by putting this in the battlefield, we get to cheat out our spells like Hidden Blade, like Grand Stratagem. It is very, very nice when you're able to pull it off. And this card actually was relatively clutch for me in those starter deck tournaments. So definitely good for this version of the deck. And then we have the real bread and butter of the deck, 3 copies of Cruel Patron. This card is just purely overstated, and you're just sacrificing tokens to play it, so it doesn't even feel bad in the slightest. The 6 might number, incredible. A little rough against Kaisa, but I think you have some other tools to help deal with Kaisa, especially with some of the upgrade paths that we'll talk about. But yeah, this card, I think you're playing this in Constructed Victor 100%. Card's incredible. Now we have the big drops that the starter deck provides us. I will talk about a replacement card in a moment, but the cards we're playing in these slots, we have 3 copies of Jeweled Colossus. Nice thing about it is it doesn't have a power cost. So we slam it for 5. It's got 5 might. It's got the vision and the shield. I was actually comboing this in my starter deck tournaments with Karma, who allows you to buff units when you recycle cards. So that was a pretty nice combo. But because it doesn't come in the starter deck, we can't really talk about it too much. We do also have 2 copies of Wraith of Echoes. It is nice when you're trading off tokens, because what you'll do a lot of the times is you'll send a token into a battlefield just to score, and you're completely expecting it to die. And if you can set up Wraith of Echoes in your base, you actually get benefits from that thing dying. I wish that Riftbound was in more of a state where this card was a lot more viable, because it'd be really cool to like set this up and, you know, be able to rely on the draws you get over the course of the early game. But it is a little bit high costed. The might number is not even that bad, but the 6 drop makes it a little bit tougher to actually play this card a lot of the time. However, it was nice again in that sealed starter deck format, and it is the high drop we get. You do need some sort of like top end bigger units to try and contest some things. However, 110%, if you can get your hands on a Thousand-Tailed Watcher. It is a little bit expensive right now, but it's only a rare, so I do suspect it'll go down in price somewhat. So if you can get your hands on 3 of those, put it in here for sure. Another 2 cards I might recommend is 1 Commander Ledros. If you can go real wide with tokens, Commander Ledros is a really strong card, really high might card for a lower cost that I really like. The other card you can consider is Dr. Mundo, maybe at 1 to 2 of. If you were going to play Mundo, though, I would definitely say swap out Altar to Unity with Zon Warrens so you can generate more of a discard in the games where you might want to play Mundo. But yeah, these are the ones we get in the deck, and these are the ones that we're playing at these particular ratios. That's going to be all the units. Let's take a look at our spell lineup. We are playing 3 copies of Sprite Call, another clutch card in the starter deck format. Definitely swap this out, though, for Sprite Mother if you can get your hands on it. It is an uncommon, so it shouldn't be too tough to get. But still, solid card, giving you a haste token, and also has good defensive properties because of the hidden ability on the card as well. So you can hide this in the battlefield, and then you can instantly make it 3 might stronger when you're trying to hold. So that's pretty nice, and one thing that Sprite Mother doesn't provide. So if you even wanted to play this over Sprite Mother, I wouldn't say you're crazy. I definitely think that's okay. And now, the main thing we're leaning into with this particular version of the deck, where we're only building with 2 starter decks, is the heavy, strong removal you have access to. So you've got Call of the Week, which is incredible. Like, if you can deal with your opponent's 2 battlefields and the units in them, and then you can try to snipe their last unit in their base, that is such a strong momentum swing that they're going to have a really hard time coming back from. And you're either playing this when you have no board and you don't have to kill anything you have, or you're playing this and just killing one of your tokens. In either case, you just don't really care. So really good card. And then we have Hidden Blade. For anyone new to Riftbound, Riftbound in set 1 is extremely tempo oriented. So what I mean by that is when you read Hidden Blade and see that you kill your opponent's card and give them 2 draws, it's not really as much of a drawback as you might initially think, because again, killing that unit that they spent a ton of energy and some power on, yes, they're getting 2 draws, but their hand probably wasn't that big anyway, and the tempo you're generating from completely wiping that unit off the board is incredible and almost always worth it. So yeah, don't be afraid to use this. You do obviously want to save it for more high priority units. You don't really want to go using this on like their 2s and 3 drops, but incredible card where you can kill their big units with it. Then we've got 3 copies of Stupefy, just one of the best cards in blue. You won't play a blue deck without 3 copies of this card. Incredible stuff that you would play in Constructed. We've got 3 copies of Smokescreen. You would definitely play at least 2 copies of this in Constructed. So in the starter deck only version, 3 copies is completely justified in my opinion. Card's incredible. I mean, for 2 energy, it does also have a power cost, but you are getting a 4 might differential on a fight at reaction speed as well. So you can't really complain about having that. And another card we're including that you might include like a 1 of, maybe a 2 of in Constructed, Victor, is Back to Back. This is what I was talking about before with Noxian Drummer, where if you swing in with Noxian Drummer, you immediately have like Back to Back live because you can buff both the drummer and the token that it generates. So that's really, really good there too. I really like this card again in the Constructed or in the sealed starter deck format. And I also just kind of like it generally. I mean, it's 3 energy, no power cost, and reaction speed. So really, really good there. And then for our main win condition, this is what you are playing this deck for. And this is how you are trying to win through Grand Stratagem. You get 1 copy across both your starter decks. So you get 1 there. If you can find a 3rd copy, definitely include it. Because in this variation of the deck, where you're not really able to play cards like Thousand Tail Watcher, unless you get lucky enough to pick them up at your LGS, you definitely want to be leaning into super wide token spam and then getting to 6 points as efficiently and quickly as possible, being that sort of aggro deck. And then you want to finish the game with Grand Stratagem, buffing as many units as possible for your final push to get your 7th and 8th point. You can sometimes win the game by holding from 7 to 8, but generally you want to set up the 6-point kill turn and then have as many units in your base as possible, and then cast the Grand Stratagem. That's going to be the best way to win. So overall, guys, that is the build. Again, I think this is the best deck you can make with just 2 starter decks. We also talked about those upgrade paths. Definitely try to get your hands on Thousand Tail Watcher. Try to get your hands on Obelisk of Power. A 3rd Grand Stratagem would do you a lot of justice as well. Another card to think about is Singularity. Really, really great blue card. And yeah, like this is a cheap deck to upgrade as well, rarity wise. Again, Watcher is a little bit expensive, but hopefully it goes down considering it's only a rare. You only need the 1 epic, the 1 Victor leader. You don't even really need Victor's signature spell. It's not that important. You could really consider Convergent Mutation, which is a very similar card, but instead of buffing a wide swath of units, it buffs up 1 token to the might of something like a Cruel Patron. So that's really nice. Like imagine being able to take a 1 might recruit token, making it the same power as a Cruel Patron. That's really, really good. But overall, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.